So this entire time, I've been on mute. Family, I assure you that I will fix in the comment section. But when we look at this, when we look at Trump's policies, I'm going to jump right into it. Let's set the stage because during his presidency, Donald Trump's administration took a hardline stance on immigration. Executive orders, ICE raids, the infamous build the wall rhetoric, which they were building a wall until the new president occurred and your boy Jim Crow Biden stopped that. It was all part of a broader strategy to reduce the number of illegal immigrants in the U.S. And one of the key pieces of legislation was the Executive Order 13767. Give me 1 second, family. Someone calling me live. And that was issued back in January of 2017, which aimed to enhance the border security and tighten immigration enforcement. I don't know if you guys recall that particular executive order. That is what Donald Trump tried to invoke. Now, some people argue that deporting illegal immigrants opens up jobs and resources for America, particularly those in low-income communities. And I wonder if there's any truth to that. So we're gonna try to break it down as best we can here. We're gonna try to break this down, family, because I think it's utterly important that we do. Because there's gonna be some people that are going out there going to rock for Donald Trump simply because of illegal immigration, because they know the side effects of illegal immigration. And when you see that firsthand of illegal immigrants being dropped off in your community, and some, not all, are committing crimes and violent acts, then you're probably more prone to vote for someone who'll get rid of them. Because foundational Black Americans, we've been in here prior to 1619. We've been here prior to 1526. We go back 8, 9 generations. We can follow and trace our lineage back to the 1870 census. And that's especially when foundational Black Americans were considered citizens. So, of course, we were no longer 3/5 in property, even though people were still thinking that. But there is evidence, family, that immigration can depress wages for Black Americans. There was a study that they did. I think his name was George Boros or Borjas. I forgot how to pronounce it. I know you guys are probably familiar with it, but he's a prominent labor economist at Harvard University. And I guess he was saying that an influx of skilled immigrants can indeed lower wages for low-skilled Black Americans, like people who are not licensed and certified, et cetera. Like you may just be construction hands, so to speak. These industries have a history, family, of sidelining Black workers. Because don't forget, prior to the Chinese coming over in America, Black Americans were building the railroad exclusively. Then Chinese workers or economic asylum seekers were coming over to the New World for opportunities, land, even though they were being persecuted and discriminated upon by the white supremacists at the country that were running. They started to hire Chinese at a higher rate than Black folk. And it wasn't because the Chinese were doing a better job or they were working harder or longer. Because again, we've already built one of the longest railroads from the Eastern Seaboard. I think it was from Boston to North Carolina. Don't quote me on that. But that's one of the first railroads that was created on the East Coast. But they did to box us out. I mean, it's straight bigotry when you look at how the system have been consistently showing us their racism. But everything that we received in this country, whether it be our greats or present day, we've been fighting for every right that we have and all the rights that we don't have, family. Because when people come over here, they're receiving all of the incentives, all of the benefits, all of the hard work, all of the people who sacrificed their lives for the multiple civil rights acts, the amendments of the Constitution, And we were talking about affirmative action, family. Affirmative action did not help Black folk the way we thought it would. It helped immigrants. It helped non-Black people. But see, the way that they box this family, the way that they depict this picture, so they believe that when people speak about affirmative action, they're talking about Black people. When people are talking about DEI, they're talking to Black people. When people are talking about civil rights, they're talking to Black people. But when we look at the legislation connected to Black people, Black communities, and what that legislation and policies have done, you will see an overwhelming, resounding results in non-Black communities. When you look at basic jobs, right? Take, for instance, the construction industry, right? For a very long time, Black people was all in construction. We were all in agriculture. We were all in farming. But as we notice, as a rise of an influx of illegal immigrants, workers who are willing to accept lower pay, Black workers have been pushed out of these opportunities and jobs because of the lower bid. Because they don't have to even, there's nowhere for them to report that they're not receiving minimum wage because you're legal in the country, and they know that. And of course, when we talk about agriculture, of course, that field is always looking for the cheapest wages when they're selling oranges and peaches and corn and all those things. They want people to go out there and cultivate the crop and pick the crop, etc. So they're always looking for the lowest wage workers, and they lean towards illegal immigrants because, again, people will not be flocking to America, family, if they wasn't receiving benefits or incentives or jobs. They would not. Why would I go? The only reason why I'm here, because my boy Tyrone said, man, y'all got all the jobs up here. So me and Tyrone came up there, and guess what? We want the jobs. Me, Tyrone, Mike, we all came up there because we want the jobs. Jared, come on, Jared, you want the job too. So we all going to America for jobs. I get it. But as an American citizen, this is a critical moment for us, and there's a lot at stake here. And again, I know a lot of Black people are now leaning towards Donald Trump. I'm not hating. But here's the thing, family. If we go for anything, then we stand for nothing, and then essentially we fail. And I'm telling people, vote in your best interest, but the best interest that I know for me and the Black family is standing on business, and that's cash payment reparations, and that's just the beginning of it. Because we also need to wipe away qualified immunity. There's very simple things that this government could have done to almost instantly increase the status of Black Americans. And I don't just mean family. I don't just mean from a financial standpoint, even though that's part of it, but from an infrastructure. I thought about this today. I went to Whole Foods. I went to Whole Foods, and we get our water from there. We have these very large jugs that I go fill up the water. I don't do the whole Deer Park or delivery water. We get the high pH balanced water, whatever, right? Or the deionized water. But nonetheless, family, I was really thinking when I was growing up, we drank water right out the faucet. And then some of you are like, yeah, that's why you got lead in your system. But nonetheless, we used to drink the water right out the faucet. I'm like, we're the most powerful country in the world, and we buying water. You pay property tax, state tax, and federal tax, depending on where you live. You pay one of those. But you also have to pay for water. But you tell me that my taxes funds the fire department, funds the police department, funds the Department of Works where they fix the streets and the potholes, but it does not pay for my water to come to my house. In some apartments, they have to pay for water. So you're telling me city ran infrastructural things, and I'm paying property tax to the state, the city, whoever, the municipality that's in my area, and you mean to tell me I have to pay for that? I just thought about that. That was a side note, family. Because again, there's so many things that be on my mind about these, because if we dug into some data, right, and there was a report that came out from the Center for Immigration Studies, they found that legalizing illegal workers would significantly impact employment rates for Black American workers, especially those who just have a high school diploma or maybe even dropped out or even got the GED. It will affect those people because the logic is simple. Increasing the supply of low-wage labor drives down wages and job opportunities for already struggling in the labor market. If the market in that area is, let's say, is calling, if you're Washington State, you're working at, let's say, a fast food shop, and the minimum wage is $15. And you have a bunch of illegal immigrants, and as a business owner, and I'm not stating this what business owners should do because it should be legal, I'm paying you $15 an hour, one person. I can hire 3 for $15 per hour, and I'm only paying them $5 an hour. That's what's really going on, family. So a lot of people are leaning towards Donald Trump, let me tell you. And I totally understand. I'm just saying that's not what your boy gonna do. Because again, we have to stay on code, we have to stand on business. But nonetheless, for those who may be intrigued, let's see exactly what Donald Trump said. Let's see what Donald Trump said, family. Let's see what he said. Let's be fair.
Problems within 24 hours of taking office.
Echoing campaign promises from his first run for the White House, former President Donald Trump.
I'll solve the border problems within 24 hours of taking office.
Echoing campaign promises from his first run for the White House, former President Donald Trump has vowed to crack down on immigration again if he's elected to a second term in office. Some of the policies he wants to implement may sound familiar, but others would be unprecedented. Trump has said he would bring back his Remain in Mexico program, which forced non-Mexican asylum seekers to wait in Mexico for the resolution of their cases. The program was terminated by President Joe Biden, who promised more humane and orderly immigration policies. Trump has also said he will seek to detain all migrants caught crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally, ending what he calls catch and release. And he has pledged to close gaps in the border wall, a core promise from his 2016 campaign if he returns to the White House.
I will immediately reinstate and expand the wildly successful Trump travel ban on entry from terror-plagued countries, territories, and places.
In an October speech, Trump pledged to restrict U.S. entry to people from the Gaza Strip, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, and, quote, anywhere else that threatens our security. Trump also said he would bar the entry of immigrants who support Hamas and send deportation officers to pro-Hamas protests.
If you support Hamas or any ideology that's having to do with that, or any of the other really sick thoughts that go through people's minds, very dangerous thoughts, you're disqualified.
Trump also plans to launch the largest deportation effort in U.S. history. According to a report from the New York Times, Trump aims to deport millions of illegal immigrants with large-scale roundups and by creating camps to hold them while they await removal. He's also vowed to take aggressive new steps with the help of the National Guard to deport immigrants with criminal records and suspected gang members. Trump said he would again move to suspend refugee admissions and vowed to end parole programs that have allowed migrants with U.S. sponsors to enter the country, including Ukrainians and Afghans. Trump also said.
So yeah, family, that's what we're facing right now. Millions of people being deported if Donald Trump is elected and for office. And I guess the question for that is that beneficial for Black Americans? And so I'm definitely going to provide a link for you guys. If you guys have any comments, I'm going to start opening up the link for you guys to call in so I can get some of your thoughts and views on this, because I really want to know if this is beneficial to Black America and what are your thoughts on it. And so we're going to get into that, family. But first, yes, beneficial for Black Americans or not is the question. And when I was looking at some of the legislation over here, fam, let me just show you this very, very quickly here, this legislation. And this is the border security immigration enforcement improvements that they were going to make. And this was that executive order 13767. And this is what the legislation they were referring to. And it states here, let me blow this up a little bit here. Border security is critically important to the national security of the U.S. Aliens who illegally enter the U.S. without inspection or admission present a significant threat to national security and public safety. Such aliens have not been identified or inspected by federal immigration officers to determine their admissibility to the U.S. The recent surge of illegal immigration at the southern border with Mexico has placed a significant strain on federal resources and overwhelmed agencies charged with border security and immigration enforcement, as well as the local communities into which many of the aliens are placed. So when we talk about these communities that I guess Trump is referring to, majority of these neighborhoods, these communities are Black American communities. It's kind of one of the same ploy that the white supremacists used back in the 60s and 70s when they were dropping off Asians at the time from different countries. But there were mostly, I think there were an influx of Vietnamese, Cambodian. Of course, that wasn't part of the war of Vietnam, but nonetheless, they were being dropped off just the same in those Black neighborhoods. And now we have a lot of Koreans in Black neighborhoods. And again, family, don't get me wrong, because of my tone and the way that I'm stating this, because a lot of these people are being used as pawns. And don't get me wrong, a lot of them are okay with that because they're reaping financial benefits. But nonetheless, this has been orchestrated by the government. This has been orchestrated by the government, and they use policy. They use legislations. They use act. They use bills. They use the rule of law in order to keep Black folk in line and to control them. Only a couple of us, because of the way that the financial system, when it comes to employment, when it comes to illegal immigration, is structured for a majority of us not to get it. We're talking about the school to prison pipeline, over policing of Black neighborhoods, you name it, family. It's a reason, because again, they like to paint the picture that Black Americans are the criminal class of America by over policing our neighborhoods. If you over police other neighborhoods, they don't have to be what they like to say, the ghetto in the hood. They use these racial tropes. That is low income areas. And the reason why they're low income areas, because we're not allowed to have the high income jobs. Oh, you don't have the high income jobs because you guys don't value education. Well, we don't value education. Why the funding is not there for education, but other colleges, again, it's so much. But believe me when I tell you, it is all connected. Okay. So I've been running my mouth for a bit. I just had to put that out to you, family. Let me put this in the chat for anyone who want to join me here. You guys have any questions? Okay. Go ahead and click the link there and ask your question. I see I got my brother DSB Warrior inside the room. Greets, Bull Fan 25, Douglas Sullivan, Todd Waddle. Yeah, if anyone got the number one in the room, Solid Snake. Shout out goes out to my mod. Thank you all for joining me here this evening. Now, if anybody have any questions or want to raise a topic of concern when it comes to Donald Trump's plan of deportation, okay, Donald Trump's plan of deportation and how that would affect Black Americans, even would it be beneficial for us that Donald Trump becomes president, or should we stay on code and until what they owe us is on the table, they will receive a new voting block overwhelmingly. What are the questions that you guys may have, or some concerns you may pose? Because when we look at the criminal justice angle, right? Trump's policy increased ICE raids and deportation. But the most important thing, Donald Trump talked about increasing the funding for police officers and creating a airtight, more, I guess the lack of better words is an airtight qualified immunity, like giving qualified immunity steroids, like making qualified immunity airtight, even if the police officer is wrong. So on one hand, if Black America votes for Donald Trump, I believe he will follow through with a lot of the immigration, okay? A lot of the deportation and immigration, okay? Because he'll get a lot of flack from his community if he didn't. But on the other hand, and I don't really care about the increased funding for police officers because, again, you know my stance on that, family. We need police. We just need good police. Police who work on the system of law and justice and not on racial subconscious bias or stereotyping or stop and frisk or operate on those terms. And that's mostly going out to race soldiers with badges, but not the good police. But I think from our standpoint, if you're not going to wipe away, if you're not going to revoke qualified immunity from the police, then revoke qualified immunity for the police when it comes to foundational Black Americans. I mean, we can structure that bill however we want, but essentially that's what I'm referring to. Okay. Solid Snake says China and Russia just joined forces to raise BRICS currency. China also dumped $74 billion in U.S. debt. Also, yeah, that's pretty old news. The BRICS, they're picking up countries so they can go back to the gold standard. I don't know how that's going to work out. America has created a system, created a system of debt, created a system of fiat, meaning IOU. And family, let me tell you something. When I went over to Brazil, when I went over to Africa, the 3 different African countries I've been to, when I went to Central America, and I went to all these places that do not have a loan system. They do not have IOU, meaning that, okay, I'm gonna give you this amount of money for this long. You have to pay it back with this particular interest rate. So essentially you get what you want, but you're gonna pay me a premium because I'm gonna get a profit off the money I loan you. And Americans are okay with that. Let me tell you why the Americans are okay with that. Because like 95, 98% of Americans use OPM. They use other people's money. So some people may say that America is a socialist country, that America is a welfare state. Think about it, that America is a welfare state where you essentially don't have to save up and grind and work hard. You just show that you have income coming in, and based on that income and your debt to income ratio, any marks in your credit score, the 5 tiers of your credit score or whatever, you can go out and buy a $50,000, $60,000 car. You can go out and buy a $200,000, $800,000 home on a loan. And when I went to these other countries, I saw that you had to have cash in hand. There was no loans. You just had to have the cash. So first, you save up a lot of money. You have to buy the land. Then you have to buy the materials. Then you have to hire people to build it. And then a lot of times they don't have a lot of money. So they first buy the land, then they buy the materials. And then you see the skeletons of homes. Everywhere I went, you would just see cinder blocks built, brick together essentially with some iron rods for the cement, but it's never a full building. I mean, I saw them all over Ghana. I saw them all over South Africa. I saw them all over Kenya. I saw them all over Costa Rica. I mean, it was everywhere, family, that countries really don't have a strong loan system, or they don't have a loan system at all. So I also think about how we're going to legalize a lot of illegal immigrants, right? And making their pathway to citizenship even more expedient, and we don't have significant information for these people from their country. Because think about it, family. You can just pop up and leave and live over, let's say, because Ghana's popular. Let's say you go move over to Ghana. Let's say you just move over to Ghana and then you become a citizen. You essentially start off with a new slate. So a lot of people coming here, and again, as you stated in one of the news articles here, they have this catch and release program, open door policy program. So again, believe me, family, when I tell you that I understand why a lot of Black people are going to vote for Donald Trump, I get it. It just ain't me. It just ain't me. And I'm not voting for Joe Biden because, again, Joe Biden told Black people what he was not going to do. Because anytime anyone asks Joe Biden about reparations, he goes right to he goes right to immigration. That's what Joe does. He goes right to immigration, family. That's what he does when you ask about reparations for foundational Black Americans. That's what Joe does.
President Donald Trump made clear that if elected again, he'd pursue more extreme immigration policies, including mass deportations of millions of people.
On day one, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. We have no choice.
To break down the potential impact of Trump's agenda, Laura Barone-Lopez joins us now. So, Laura, what has the former president laid out in terms of his immigration plan if he were to win this year?
So, Amna, that mass deportation plan that Trump has talked about, including this weekend, we know some details of how it would be carried out from Stephen Miller, the architect of Trump's first-term immigration policies, who remains a close ally and advisor to the president. Stephen Miller talked about how they would carry out that type of deportation plan to right-wing personality Charlie Kirk last fall.
And in terms of personnel, you go to the red state governors and you say, give us your National Guard. We will deputize them as immigration enforcement officers. The Alabama National Guard is going to arrest illegal aliens in Alabama, and the Virginia National Guard in Virginia. And if you're going to go into an unfriendly state like Maryland, well, then it would just be Virginia doing the arrest in Maryland, right? Very close, very nearby.
So there, Stephen Miller is talking about how they would federalize the National Guard to carry out the mass deportation plan. Through comments from Stephen Miller, through comments from the former president himself, reports as well as aligned policy groups. We have a picture of the
Fair use. All news clipping was in conjunction with commentary. Now, what's important about this, family, is that I guess when I look at a lot of people coming out and stating what Donald Trump's going to do as far as how he's going to take red states' National Guard and convert them into immigration enforcement officers solely for the point of deportation. Like, there's a plan in place, and that's just a small part of it. And again, a lot of people on both sides are going to look at this as beneficial for them. And I understand that. Yara says, yes, very true. Cash in other countries, not a lot of loans. Okay, they're trying to get Black votes by any means necessary. Yeah, Joe Biden is going to lose the Black vote. Now, there's going to be some hardcore Democrats, some hardcore liberals that are going to try to keep Joe Biden in office. They're going to try to convince Black folk. But now what's occurring, and again, I'm not saying this is a good thing, because anytime they come to Black American, if you notice, they go to rappers, they go to singers, they go to dancers, they go to comedians, they go to movie stars as the voices and leaders of Black America, which is untrue. They never go to the educated class. They never go to the empowerment class. They never go to the warrior class to speak to us. But when they talk to those other people, that's who they talk to. They talk to business-minded people, people who are going to empower their communities, people. But when they come to us, this is a disrespect. They know that these other figures in these entertainment sections do not have the mouthpiece, does not know the history, or can regurgitate the information in order to do right for the people. That's why they go to these people. That's why they're always going to entertainers. They're always in the entertainment space. They're always in the entertainment space, and that's just the problem. Now, I was looking at this earlier, family. I want you guys to take a look at it very quickly. And this is coming from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, early American immigration policies. Okay, and this was kind of breaking down how they used to do immigration back in the day. It stated here that the Chinese, let me just highlight that for you guys, that the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 and Alien Contract Labor Laws of 1885 and 1887 prohibited certain laborers from immigrating to the United States. The General Immigration Act of 82 levied a head tax of 50 cents on each immigrant and blocked or excluded the entries of, this is the U.S. government, family. This is the U.S. government. Are you guys seeing this? This is right here on the Immigration Services website. They're actually blocking people who they believe not to come in the country as idiots, lunatics, convicts, and persons likely to become a public charge. Now, public charge can be a stain on society, or it can be a bill, meaning the exact what's going on right now, where there's all of these illegal immigrants that all of these American U.S. cities are taking care of. So definitely they are a public charge. And essentially, immigration policies and acts of these, this is some of the things that has been, I guess, on the table to enforce when Donald Trump's come into office. Because again, you can deport anybody that's not an American citizen. They can pick and choose who they, family, can we look at that again? They can pick and choose to deport anybody. They said that it prevents and blocks entry of idiots. Anybody can be an idiot. If I deem you an idiot, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You don't agree with my views. You don't agree with my rhetoric. You don't agree with my bias. You're an idiot. You're a lunatic. You're a lunatic. Who wrote this? They said convicts, of course, I agree with that. Convicts and criminals should not be coming to America. And then those who are public charge. We have millions of illegal immigrants inside of America, and they are all public charge. And I was reading this statistic, and it wasn't from a governmental website, and I don't know if it was propaganda or not, but they were stating how illegal immigrants somehow pay more taxes than the amount of money that that governments pay to house them and feed them and support them. I was like, what? There's no way. Because here's the thing, family, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're illegally in the country, you're not a citizen, can a lot of illegal immigrants still receive health care from their employer if they're illegally in the country and they can't provide a visa, work permit, or citizenship? Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's not making sense to me. That's not making sense to me. Douglas states, I say sit the couch until reparations on the table. We, the Democrat or Republicans, economic is the true battleground here in the American period. And a lot of things, family, we have to stop being so freaking emotional. We're always emotional. We're letting people rile us up about certain things when it comes to politics. Just vote in our best interests, okay? Policy over party. I'm not going to commit to a party and it's doing nothing for foundational Black Americans. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Now, there's going to be some people who vote in the dark. There's going to be a lot of people who vote in the dark. What I'm talking about, a lot of you are going to present yourselves as on code for reparations, for qualified immunity, for justice, for foundational Black Americans. But in the dark, you can go vote. You ain't gonna let nobody know. And that's fine. We know we're gonna have people like that. And again, family, a lot of people will be voting for the best interests of Black Americans. I get that as well. And they think that this is one step. This is one step to empowering Black folk, especially by the way of economic opportunities for all the things that our forefathers have done by building the country in building an economy that is the most powerful and richest country in the world today. Our ancestry done that. Our lineage have done that. So there's a lot of pride and spirit in that. Where I have to stand 10 toes down on being on code. But again, not that I will compromise myself. I understand that people may see it differently, and I'm okay with that. I understand that. But when we look at it from a power standpoint, family, when Barack Obama got into office, I said it to myself, I gave him excuses. I know Barack Obama wasn't going to do anything for black people his first term. I knew he wasn't going to do that. But I said, I know Barack Obama is going to do something for black people his second term. He's not telling nobody because he got to make sure he gets reelected. And I was wrong. And you was wrong. And millions of other black people were wrong because we probably were all thinking the same thing. Okay, the brother got to win his second term. Then, yeah, we're going to get our just deserve, which is owed from this country. Just like all these other groups receive reparations, the Native Americans, Jewish Holocaust survivors, Japanese internment camp, many other groups receiving cash from this government freely, not just protections, not just a hate crime laws, but actual beneficial, tangible money. But again, when we ask about it, when we talk about reparations, we'll get people from other societies, we get other people from other cultures, people from other races, and people who are part of our lineage, we call them coons, start talking about stop being lazy, get off your butt and work, to the same people who benefit from the country that our forefathers has built. And all the many things that we have done to advance society. That's why when I read history about the Moors and how they created a sewer system over in Europe because they were living among their feces and piss all over the place until the Moors came over there and modernized their cities with a sewer system or drainage, gave them spices and medicines. It's not a big surprise of all the achievements that Black Americans have made in America, even under oppression. The many inventions and innovations. Even to this day, I bring up the brother Moses West, who created the atmospheric water gatherer or something like that, that just gathers moisture out of the air and then converts it into potable drinking water. That is mind-blowing, but that's our people. And that's the history that we come from. And that is the present that we're living in. Solid Snake said he would choose Ben Carson for VP, only black guy he seems to respect. He is the great brain surgeon he knows. I don't know. I don't know who Donald Trump VP would be. I feel like, I don't know. Donald Trump doesn't strike me as a guy who will pick a female. But it would shock me, but it wouldn't shock me, right? Because I think it would be something out of his political camp, out of his advisors that would state that, you know, Donald Trump, you probably need to pick a female. We're kind of low on the middle age and whatever statistics they do that encourages the president from a strategic standpoint to pick a particular VP. Now, most people think because of the MAGA crowd, of the people that support Donald Trump, most likely he's going to pick an old white man. He's going to do the same thing that he did with, what's his name? Michael Pence. He's just going to pick an old white man. And here's the thing. He's going to make sure that if he picks an old white male, let me tell you, family, that old white male is going to be a beta male for Donald Trump. Donald Trump don't want any conflict. He wants you to fall in line and do as he says. I would not want to work for the Donald Trump presidency. Not at all. Because if you don't fall in line, believe me, family, your ass getting set up. Let me see what you guys are saying here. I see Solid Snake is a new member. Thank you for joining the family. And family, if you're watching here, please give the video a thumbs up and share it on your social media. And don't forget, on Wednesday, we're going to have our sister Chicago Red. I don't know if you guys saw the flyer I put out, the postcard that I put out.
This episode.
Hold on. I definitely want you guys to check that out. Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. Okay, we're gonna have our sister on, P. Ray Easley, also known as Chicago Red. She's been putting in a lot of work, family. She's been putting in a lot of work there in Chicago. She got a lot of public recognition from Donald Trump of the work that she's been putting in. And so the reason why this is more on a national stage, okay, the reason why this is more on a national stage is because she started in Chicago, but now she's gotten recognition by Donald Trump. And she has a mission. She has a mission to turn Chicago red from blue. Okay? To turn Chicago red from blue. And I've said this many a times, okay? I've said this many a times. One, policy over party. And then number two, believe it or not, family, most Black Americans are conservative by nature. That doesn't mean that you're a Republican. That doesn't mean that you are a Republican. It does mean that majority of Black American views are conservative. And again, we're not a monolith. Let me share you with this. I don't know if you guys saw this. Okay, this interview here is going to be Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. Go ahead and click the notification bell for that video. And if you would, to drive the analytics crazy, give that video a thumbs up. Okay, give that video a thumbs up. And notable to speak, she's been on Fox News. She's been on a number of different news broadcasts, what you call them, news broadcast companies, whatever, like, you know, Fox, CBS, all those places. So she's been really been pounding the pavement here from quite some time. And I have the honor of interviewing her on Wednesday. So that's going to be a good time, family. We want to get some good game from her. But at the same time, I told her, we talked on the phone. I said, is it okay if I challenge you? And she said, that's perfectly fine. Because of the space she's in, she's used to being challenged. And nothing's going to be harmful here, family. Very respectful. We want to see what the sister's brain is because again, Black Americans are not just waking up. And his shout out goes out to Ron DeSantis. A lot of us are now woke. Good old Ron DeSantis. Thank you for making that popular. Most Black people are now woke, and that's not a replacement word for being gay, okay, or anything else. Everyone knows who's on code, know what the woke I'm talking about, okay? Let's see here. I got a couple of notes here. Says in New York City, you can walk into hospitals and get seen without a bill if you're illegal, but as a citizen, you will get billed. Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course you will. Now, let me tell you, family, before I go here, I'll say this. Some of you might have to pick up some French. Some of you might have to pick up some Spanish. And my Foundation of Black Americans, if you can pass for Hispanic on any level, learn a couple of words, go and get your free Medicare right there in New York. If you're my complexion, most likely you can go ahead and speak some French. Comment allez-vous, je remercie tout et pas, merci et pas. All those words right there was French and a little me mumbling into it. But nonetheless, family, I think it'd be good and beneficial for us if we learn those languages to get free healthcare. Because why get billed? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't speak no English. So anyway, you guys have a great and wonderful evening. I'll see you on the next B1.